A lot of people like to talk about who the MVP is at the halfway point of the season, and that almost always is a litany of offensive players.
Linemen?
Some running backs. By the way, go to ProFootballFocus.com. You can check out Eric's article on who the MVP and the most valuable running back in the NFL are. But now we're going to talk about the most valuable defensive players at this point. I'm George, Eric, of course, alongside, brought to you by MyBookie.ag. All right, we've got three here. We're going to start with numbers 2 and 3 and save one, so make sure you stick around. And these two kind of epitomize what we've talked about being valuable in the NFL. Passing is valuable, and so covering the pass is valuable, and that's why we see a guy from the Patriots and a guy from the Cowboys show up here.
Yeah, the Cowboys have been very poor offensively, but have still sort of won some games, and a lot of that can be attributed to the fact that Byron Jones has made a very, very good transition from safety, not to slot corner, but to outside, shutdown corner so far this year. He's been extremely valuable. He's only given up 15 of 31 passes into his coverage to be complete, and 6 of his 31 to be knocked down by him. So he's been terrific no matter how you slice it.
Yeah, a fourth of his passes he's forced incompletions on. Targeting him on go routes, by the way, bad decision, 0 for 6 doing so. And the interesting thing is that on the opposite side, Chidobe Awuzie has been like the complete opposite. So if the Cowboys could find a way to lock down that other side of things, might be a better tale for Cowboys fans. Okay, a team that's actually doing well, the New England Patriots, Tom Brady, as usual, is the guy that leads that team. But the defense has been surprisingly good, and a big reason for that is one of the few times they actually sign a player to big money, Stephon Gilmore.
Yeah, nobody epitomizes the Patriots' ascension more than Gilmore. Since week 4, when they started their winning streak, he's only allowed 10 of 29 passes into his coverage to be complete, and he has 7 pass breakups, a 46.8 pass rating into his coverage. Before that, he had given up 3 touchdowns in the first 3 weeks, so it's sort of weird. It sort of shows how unstable possibly cornerback play is, but when it hits, how valuable it can be for the team that has such a player.
Yeah, something our boss, Chris Collinsworth, likes to talk about is that as the season progresses, you see the teams that are better coached because their players figure things out, right? That kind of that missing component that people often don't realize is that things happen in practice, and if they actually know what they're doing on the coaching staff, then you'll usually see it manifest itself on the field, and Gilmore has certainly done that. The third lowest completion percentage on throws 10+ yards downfield. That's first if you go since week 4, as you mentioned. So a couple of guys that are getting it done on the other side of the ball, but still in the passing game, and that generates a ton of value. So they're not going to quite be, the top receiver or the top quarterback, but those corners are very valuable. Okay, they're not number 1 though. Before we get to number 1, if you would like to make any sporting event, anything that you're watching more interesting, you want to head to mybookie.ag, even if it's some action on a Tuesday. MyBookie.ag has got you covered. They will make even the most mundane exciting. You can place a wager on everything from individual player totals to season-long projections, if that is your thing. If you use promo code PFF, you can get a dollar-for-dollar match on your first deposit. It's pretty simple. Head to mybookie.ag. You play, you win, you get paid. All right. The most valuable defensive player in the NFL resides on a team with a very good offense. That player is who?
Yeah, it's Aaron Donald. And it's interesting here. This shows kind of the limitations of some of the heuristics that we have, right? So we say coverage players are most valuable. When we say edge players are more valuable than interior players, Donald breaks the mold. He's leading all players in pressure so far this year. He's leading interior players. He's second in terms of stops on the defensive side. He's been so dominant that he overcomes a lot of these things that are generally true in terms of defensive football, but he's been so good that it hasn't really mattered.
What's crazy about Donald is that he's getting a lot of attention, right? He's getting a bunch of double teams being thrown at him, and of his 61 pressures, 31 have come when he has been helped in terms of the pass blocking, so more than one guy trying to actually block him. And the crazy thing about that is Fletcher Cox, who is the second guy in the NFL in terms of pressures, that number is way skewed. He's doing way better against single blockers than double, and that just kind of epitomizes what Donald is doing, which is just absolutely dominating in the face of the kind of the fact that interior players have a little bit of a disadvantage in terms of getting that quick pressure.
Yeah, and what's really interesting here too is that until they got Dante Fowler, they really haven't had that edge pressure in Los Angeles. And Sue has been okay, but he hasn't been nearly as good as Donald. That defense itself has really struggled, and yet they're 7-1, 8-1 because he's making up for all of that, and that's what's really attributing to his WAR value here.
Yeah, you've seen him kind of take apart a couple of drives when that defense actually needed to step up. His value is clear. It's not quite going to be the value of Jared Goff, but if you want to have a conversation about most valuable Rams, he would certainly be ahead of our boy Todd Gurley. By the way, a lot of love for Todd Gurley. It's just the nature of the beast here with the running back discussion. And I think that really sums up where we are in the NFL right now, right? It is all offense, but if you are going to dominate defensively, it's going to be because you affect the passing game. Yeah,
and you do so in an outlier pace. You either are a guy who covers the pass like Gilmore and Jones, or you are a generational player at the defensive interior, and you are like 2 standard deviations above literally anybody else in the league, and that's where we see Donald.
I wonder if Donald would be a generational running back.
He's fast.
I don't know, week 17, if they have nothing to play for, I feel like Donald get out there, run a couple of screens. I mean, look, all of that room, he just trucks a couple of people. I'm just saying.
With his height, he's more like a mini fridge, right?
We saw that with J.J. Watt, right? He would go play tight end. I don't know, I'm just saying.
He was the Texans' best tight end for 5 years or so.
Yeah. Not going to lie. All right, for more of our content, head to ProFootballFocus.com, where you can read all of the articles we put out, plus subscribe to the PFF Forecast, where our dulcet tones will lull you to sleep for 45 to 50 minutes.